Hello, friends. This is Mac Payne here, founder, owner, and operator of the Vietnam Veteran News Podcast, where we bring you news about the Vietnam War and the brave veterans who served there, as told to you by yours truly, a Vietnam veteran. I come to you in this short video to let you know I have just published another podcast episode over at the Vietnam Veteran News Podcast. This one is number 3313. It is about a serious subject. The Vietnam War left us with several bad hangovers. The first that comes to mind is our unbridled use of herbicides over there in Vietnam. Herbicides being all those agents, Agent Orange, Agent Blue, Agent Red, and all the rest of them. To this day, there are still problems in Southeast Asia from our use of the herbicides and for Vietnam veterans, many of whom are suffering from diseases related to exposure to Agent Orange. There's another bad hangover from the Vietnam War we should be aware of, and that is unexploded ordnance. We dropped tons and tons of bombs on Vietnam and, in this case, Laos during that war. I always get a kick out of the fact that Laos was neutral. And everybody would say, we don't go into Laos because it's neutral. But we were there. The North Vietnamese were there. They ran the Ho Chi Minh Trail through there. We had special forces people in Laos, and we dropped a lot of bombs on that small country. One of the worst that is still with us today were the cluster bombs. Each cluster bomb that we would drop, and we dropped tens of thousands of them, had 600 little bomblets in it. As the bomb would leave the aircraft and fall to the ground, about halfway down, it would blow up, and all these little bomblets would spread out. I witnessed many cluster bombs being dropped in Laos when I was flying a Cobra gunship during Operation Lam Son 719. It was an impressive sight. When they would drop those bombs, it would look like 4th of July, because on the way down, they would explode and all those 600 small bombs would just spread out. Unfortunately, the people who know about these things tell us that 30% of those bomblets did not go off. Some are still there today. For years, Laotian farmers and anyone else out in the countryside are being killed by bomblets that will blow up many years later. All that and the things that are being done about it to try and clean it up are discussed in episode 3313. You are highly encouraged to listen to that podcast episode because we must know these things. Over 100 countries have signed on to an agreement to not use cluster bombs. Yet there are 3 prominent countries that have not signed on to it: Russia, China, and the US. For that reason, I think we need to know more about cluster bombs and their use and their aftermath. So hopefully people will decide not to use them anymore. But knowing what we know about human nature, they probably will. But we need to know as much as we can about them. In this story that I share with you in this podcast episode, it goes into deep detail what the Laotians are doing to deal with the problem, because to this day, Laotians are still dying from unexploded ordnance. We need to do something about it. The first thing you can do about it is to learn more about it, and you can do that by listening to podcast episode 3313. I've made it quite easy for you to access that episode. I have set up 3 simple, quick, and easy ways you can go to that podcast episode. The first one, and the easiest, and the quickest, is to merely scroll down below this 1965 vintage Philco TV set And there you should find a live link that'll take you straight to the podcast episode, and you can be listening to it immediately. But if for some reason you cannot locate that live link on the device you're watching this video on, as one of my favorites, Crocodile Dundee would always say, no worries. All you've got to do is go to this URL, VietnamVeteranNews.com. Go there, you can click on episode 3313 and be listening immediately. But wait, there's more. Method number 3 to access this podcast episode, and that is a QR code. For anyone who likes to use QR codes to access information, I got you covered. That's right. I worked real hard to create a QR code just for you that will enable you to go directly to this podcast episode and start listening to it immediately. So there you have it. 3 easy ways to go to podcast episode 3313 over at VietnamVeteranNews.com and discover more about the terrible results of our use of cluster bombs and others in the Vietnam War. We need to do that, so please do it. Before you go over and look at this podcast episode, there's something else you can do to help out in this effort, and that is like this video. The smart guys tell me that the more likes a video receives, the more often it will appear on YouTube, on the internet, and more people will see it. I really believe more people need to know about the after effects of some of the things people do in wars. Now, it'd be nice if we could do away with wars. That would be the best way to solve it. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen, knowing what I know about humanity. So we need to learn as much as we can about it. Another way to help get the word out is to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That'll do it too. So now you have 3 easy ways to access this podcast episode and 2 easy ways to help me get the message out. So I will end this video now. Thank you so much for listening. Here is the QR code. Go for it. I will leave it up on this screen to give you plenty of time to access it. You do that by using your cell phone, turning on the camera, pointing it at the QR code, and then click on it. And you'll be listening almost immediately. So again, thank you for listening. We will talk soon. If you need more time, don't worry about it. I will leave this QR code up just for you, so go to it. It is now time for me to end this video. Thank you very much for listening, and please go over and listen to episode 3313 over at the podcast website, VietnamVeteranNews.com. Again, thank you for listening. We will talk soon.